how do you help a kid learn about charity within the family that may enable them to be good stewards, so to speak, of the family's money later on?
Well, I would answer the question from the vantage point of both kind of a wealth management planning perspective, but also as a volunteer in a lot of nonprofits and board members myself. And I would say that the common answer that you'll hear kind of in the financial services industry and the nonprofit community is get them involved in the family foundation, get them involved in the donor advised fund and so forth. But I would also say put the boots on the ground. Because if you look at the most substantial donors, and you guys mentioned some charities that you're involved with at the beginning of the program, the reality is the people that are going to give most aggressively, demonstrate the highest level of commitment, are going to be the boots on the ground volunteers that show up at events, that get their hands dirty and so forth. So I think sometimes we will mistakenly take the approach that if we get the kids around the table and we vote on who we're going to give money to, that's good enough. I would argue that's probably not good enough, because that's a ledgering activity.
Are your clients at least doing that, sitting around the table and talking to their kids about who at least some of the family charity should go to?
Yeah, absolutely. And the only caveat that I would put to that is that you have to also be cognizant of the fact that when you engage the kids, you have to let them have an actual voice and actually be determinate in where money goes. I remember one meeting that I had years ago, and the daughter, who was an adult daughter, leaned over to me during the meeting and whispered, and I won't name the university, but very large university, local southern-based university, and sure enough, the matriarch proceeds to say, that's where the money's going. So we've had an idea discussion for 30 minutes about where it might presumably go, but the answer's already predetermined.
It takes some practice to be able to give wisely. And we encourage our clients to start early and in small amounts. Again, really having their children participate in meetings about where to give the money, making recommendations to the family after they've researched the topic themselves, and then really following up on a volunteer basis with the organization, and after a year's time, understanding where that money went. One of my favorite approaches in this regard is Grandparents' Day. The suggestion that typically around Thanksgiving, we get the grandchildren together with the grandparents, and we prearrange site visits with things that the grandchildren would be interested in, such as a local zoo or the Children's Museum. And they all troop about the town, visiting these sites, speaking with the director of development, understanding the needs of these organizations. And then at the end of the day, the grandparents say, we're going to give X amount. Let's all decide which charity we like the best.
That's cool.